There are two major problems that writers have with verbs, verb tense and verb form. This video is a review of verb tense errors in writing. By the end of this video, you should understand what we mean by verb tense and why these errors are so serious. You'll find out the two most common verb tense errors and some suggestions to reduce your verb tense errors. Verb tense refers to the time that a verb expresses. Here is a list of the 12 verb tenses in English with example sentences. You should know how to use and how to form all these verb tenses. If there are new verb tenses here or ones that you're still not sure about, you should check with your teacher or with a tutor to review how to use these verb tenses. In addition to showing the time that a verb expresses, verb tense also can show the aspect. Aspect can refer to temporary or action or habitual action. So, for example, Matt is studying at the library is temporary versus Matt studies at the library is habitual. That's what he usually does. So that aspect is showing whether it's temporary or habitual. Aspect can also refer to duration. For example, I worked versus I was working. Finally, aspect can refer to the relationship of an action in the past to the future or the present time. So Alicia moved or Alicia has moved. So verb tense shows aspect as well as time. The number one problem with verb tense is using the incorrect verb tense. Here we have two examples. In number one, the first sentence says, Alex has sent out several job applications last month. The verb has sent in past perfect is incorrect because the action has finished. Last month is our time. So that means we need to use sent out, the simple past, to show the action has finished. In number two, we have another example. I was in the United States since last year. Well, since last year tells us that the action started in the past but is continuing, which means it cannot be was. It has to be in present perfect, that the action started in the past and is continuing now. So to avoid this common problem of using the incorrect verb tense, you want to always make sure that the verb tense you use fits the time you want to express. So even if you're using time words like yesterday, today, or tomorrow, your verb tense still needs to show the time as well. Okay, and the second most common problem with verb tenses is shifting or moving the verb tenses inappropriately. So here we have an example sentence. It begins, although this is my first year in college, I have already found. Okay, so she's starting, in present tense, meaning she still is in her first year of college. And she says, I have already found, so that started in the past and that continues. So that looks good. But then she continues that there were some differences between high school and college. Well, she's still in college. She's still in her first year and she's still finding differences. So this would be wrong. She would need to say that there are some differences between high school and college. One of the things I learned in college, but she's not finished. She's still in college. So she would have to say, one of the things I have learned in college is that a person has to be independent. Okay, there are a couple things you can do to help yourself avoid making errors in verb tense. The first one is to review and really feel comfortable using the 12 different verb tenses. In the list in the previous slide, the first 6 verb tenses are the most common. The simple present, the present progressive, the simple past, the past progressive, the future, and the present perfect. Pay special attention to the present perfect tense because that is often one of the most difficult to master. Also, remember that even if the sentence has a time expression, like yesterday, last week, tomorrow, your verb also must express time. So every verb is expressing a time. In addition, when you're writing, pay attention to how you move from one tense to another. Now, in your writing, you do sometimes need to change from one tense to another tense, but you have to make sure that you are thinking about whether your shift, your movement to a new tense is appropriate or not. One thing, finally, that will help you pay better attention to your own writing is to start looking at other people's writing to see examples of how and when writers shift to a different verb tense. One thing you will notice as you start to examine examples of other people's writing is that if a writer is unclear with their verb tense, it makes it very difficult to understand what they have written. So that is why problems in verb tense, problems with using the incorrect verb tense, or problems with a shifting verb tense are considered very serious mistakes in writing because they make it very difficult to understand what the author is trying to say. Okay, so we have quickly reviewed one of the most common mistakes with verbs, which is verb tense errors. We've looked at what verb tenses are and why those mistakes are so serious. We looked at the 2 most common errors with verb tense, using the incorrect verb tense and shifting inappropriately between verb tenses. And we looked at 4 suggestions to help yourself remove or reduce those verb tense errors from your writing.